Download.
Dynamite Download, your home for all positive coverage on all elite wrestling. Special event, as you can see, SPD. He was born badass.
To see the height and to see the commitment and to see the drive. You will see yours truly without a signature shade. SPD once again. January recruitment month for that.
You know, I come along in the
Well, you know, actually, I didn't do that. I was thinking
Dynamite, all three in the flesh.
To do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
We're here. Cheers.
Loving that new intro, SP.
know.
And then you got my boy QT in there.
That's right, QT
Can't
Marshall.
wait to talk
making a
about
cameo.
QT Marshall and the factory making some waves this week. Lot that happened in the last 2 days. What a weekend for an AEW fan. My gosh. You and I were talking about the pre-show. It's so much to talk about. It's going to be hard to get it all in and make sure that everybody gets a chance.
A taste. Everyone gets a taste.
Gets a little taste, baby. I like it. Little taste. Got a lot of that.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
So many good moments over the last 4. So, I mean, right off the bat, if you had to name 3 standouts from the last 48 hours on AEW television, who would you say?
Oh, baby. I'm starting off with my guys, Team 2.0 and Daniel Garcia.
That's right,
they
baby.
Crushed it on Rampage. Garcia got in Sami Guevara's face tonight.
Yeah, good point.
I'm firmly on Team Garcia for that matchup. I can't wait. Dynamite, bro, I might have to make a special appearance Wednesday.
Please do.
Because if everything
Anytime.
is calm with Callie and the pregnancy,
The home front.
if that's all calm, dude, the Dynamite card next week looks absolutely bonkers.
It keeps getting more and more stacked.
Okay, so Team 2.0 and Daniel Garcia, that is number 1 with a bullet.
That should be number 2, if you know what I mean.
Number 2, I gotta say, Hook. Every time that guy gets an opportunity, I try to be cautious with going all in on a guy who's such an internet sensation, but it's so hard not to love this kid, love his potential, love his upside. Honestly, Team Taz as a whole,
oh my gosh,
has to feel really dang good right now. Ricky Starks had a killer match tonight against Matt Sydal. One of my favorite matches of this weekend.
Wow.
Those are the 2 that jump out at me. And then the third, the doctor's baby.
In.
She silenced a whole lot of people. There were so many people on social media wwho were buying into it that Riho was going to beat Britt Baker, baby. And that was shut up, proven wrong. The
commentators did a good job trying to hype that up.
And everybody, I'm telling you, man, they did a great job building up to that. There were a lot of people who thought online, I saw the chatter, a lot of people thinking Riho could have been the one, given her track record against the Good Doctor. Didn't happen. I wasn't scared. As a DMD slappy, I wasn't scared. I knew that the Doctor was going to pull that one out. And to defend her championship, come out on top in the main event of Battle of the Belts, such a big event. I struggled between them and between Britt and Jurassic Express as my third, but I have to go with Team Heel. I have to go with my first overall pick. I got to go with the Good Doctor. What about you, SPD?
Man, real quick, I'll tell you my top 3 of the last 48 hours before we start off things with. We're going to do a Rampage rundown into the Battle of the Belts Saturday Slam. Hey there, Thunder. Great seeing you. My top 3 of the week, the last 48, honestly, who really wowed me tonight was Dustin Rhodes. That guy was absolutely unreal. He put on a clinic, and that is true. That Canadian Destroyer through the table had me just marking out like crazy. I'm on Team 2.0 as well for that as well. I got the tape, and I got some gum. So I'm getting a taste.
Look at you.
2.0. I got it ready for Team 2.0. So we're going to give it a taste. We're going to get a big taste later on when we talk about them for that. But honestly, it's a toss-up as well. I mean, I have to give it to Hook, and, because we want to talk really in depth about the fact that the taste of we could potentially get a factory / Team Taz feud as well. So let's just dive right into it.
For that, I'm shocked to hear Sammy Guevara not on that list, given his.
I'm a
big
huge Sammy mark, but for someone
I know
like
you are.
Dustin, who I've always appreciated in the ring for his whole career, and I think he's elevated his in-ring, which is hard.
I can't
wait to
talk
over
about that one with you.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into it, but first let's start with.
Go ahead,
Adam Cole, baby. So we got Adam Cole versus the debuting Jake Atlas.
Yeah,
a recent sign, and I guess we'll talk about the unfortunateness to start, and then we'll finish with glowing lights. But the rumor has it he hurt his knee in this match.
Yeah.
It seemed like a rough night in Newark with a couple injuries that were significant with Ray Phoenix.
Good point.
But we got some good news on that front. So all our fingers are crossed for a speedy recovery with Ray Phoenix, and same with Jake Atlas. And I think Jericho did a great job on commentary, really hyping this guy up. I don't know much about him, but I enjoyed his in-ring work that he was doing. And for him to be that swole, that thick essentially, and be a gymnast and make some moves like that, I think he's got a lot of upside for sure. I got to call bluff on the comment or the in-ring announcers saying that Adam Cole is 205. I can confirm he's not 205.
Yeah.
But anyways, I get it.
Sure.
You got to do. But anyways, I think these guys' chemistry worked well. And even though Atlas a bigger guy and different in-ring style, I got to give props to Adam Cole for protecting his knee when they know that. He pulled on a light submission that made it look real, but he didn't do a twist or anything. And so I got to give props for him to not, putting salt in the wound on that. What did you think of this match?
Yeah, when going back and watching it all over again prior to tonight's show, at starting off, this is one of the things. AEW started off with a bang. Started off that show knowing Adam Cole gets a crowd reaction. Like we talk about that countless times. That guy knows how to get the crowd eating out of the palm of his hand, and that's one of the things that was on display tonight. Atlas really being new to the AEW universe for a lot of folks.
Yep.
You got to just step into the ring with a guy, Cole, who really, he always has a way of – this is one of the things I like about Adam Cole. I try to take it easy on him physically because I don't want to come off as a guy – I'm a Britt Baker fanboy. I don't want to come off as jealous of Adam Cole. But the guy is small. He's small. And, it's one of those weird things where it's like, even though he is smaller, he has a way of getting people to see him constantly take shortcuts. He almost becomes a bully in the match, even though he's smaller. And I like that about Adam Cole. It's a mindset. And that's why he's always been able to rise to the top no matter where he's gone. He becomes a world champion, even though he's a smaller guy. And that's one of the things I actually admire about him. He's not
the underdog, like you like Darby Allin.
Exactly. He's not blessed with this 6'4", 260 frame where you automatically say, oh, that guy should be a world champion. He's always kind of got that underdog size and vibe to him, but he wrestles a lot of matches like he's the bully. Like he's the one who's talking the trash in the match. He's the one who's slapping you in the face. He's the one who's making it very personal in the match. And if you would have just casually turned this on, you would have thought that Jake Atlas, made a pass at the DMD. Cole was making it feel personal. And I really enjoy his ability to kind of tap into the showmanship of the whole match. Brian mentions, this is a great call. Adam Cole is really compelling to watch. The Shawn Michaels clearly has those Shawn Michaels vibes. Yeah. It's obvious that he and HBK have a great connection. And as a guy who had HBK on his Mount Rushmore, I see a lot of similar vibes too. A young HBK.
That's quite the comparison.
Especially one that was ascending. I remember HBK when he was breaking onto that Intercontinental Championship vibe and earlier in his career. And you see a lot of those vibes with Adam Cole. So a total showman, always able to talk trash. And I liked
and an in-ring general. Every one of his matches we've seen so far, he's really set the tone, set the pace, and really led the way, in my opinion. I don't think I've seen him fight from behind at all, really, and try to take over a match that was,
he Yeah, he's so far in AEW, there's not a lot of chinks in the armor with Adam Cole.
You're right.
I mean, and that's one of the things that we've seen it. And I think that's, again, I think that he fits in really well in the AEW locker room. I think that there's a lot of opponents for Adam Cole where the size doesn't mean that much. And I like that. Even though Jake Atlas is a thicker guy, Cole didn't look like he didn't belong in the ring with the Jake Atlas. And there's a lot of examples where I think Adam Cole's going to be able to flourish in AEW because of that.
Absolutely.
We just saw him in this feud with Orange Cassidy, and it's still bubbling. You saw that continuing to percolate post-match. I like that pairing. I talked about that before. I really like the Orange Cassidy Adam Cole pairing because both guys are showmans. Both guys have that similar look and size. There's no clear advantage in that. They both know how to get the crowd to eat out of the palm of their hands. So I like the way this is going. And again, there's also, we've talked about it, the trios ramifications of this. How often have we talked about how excited we are of a potential trios division, being able to see the best friends and now Paragon. That's the new group name for Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Adam Fish, right?
I wasn't aware of that. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, but you talk about the trios, which we've been harping on that for months and months and months, of this. It's a perfect company to debut that, but also there's a lot of chatter about a women's tag division and a women's tag titles. We just saw the TBS championship crown with Jade, so congratulations to her. But we saw another tag match with the DMD and Jamie Hayter versus Rio and Ruby Soho ahead of the match on tonight's Battle of the Belts. And I think that anyone who DMD pairs up with, like, the chemistry is always there. It's there right now with the tag team. And this one, to me, tonight's match aside, I think the star of this match was Rio, and it just shows how much we missed her in AEW television, AEW programming, and all that, because she was a champion and former champion, and kind of went away for a while, and now she sizzled back in a little bit here and there, and now she just got a title match tonight. But I was really, really impressed with her in-ring stuff as well. And I think Ruby Soho, great gimmick and all that, but I think, like, being in a stable really would flourish and shine, as we saw.
Well, that's why in WWE,
across the pond,
exactly. Across the pond, she was the leader of the Riot Squad, and it worked. And
it worked great.
Things fell off after WWE broke that up. Even in Liv Morgan is now even trying to break through that ceiling on her own, and I think that Liv has a great following. But Ruby really, I think you're right. Ruby shined a lot as a leader of a group, and you're seeing in AEW, Thunder Rosa, poor Thunder, talked about how everybody, having to always fight against DMD and her cronies. You do see in AEW the landscape of this company. There's a lot of groups, a lot of teams, a lot of partnerships.
It helps get more people on TV too, with such a deep roster, but it's not overdone. And so if you have that tag team,
it also adds layers to. It adds layers to feuds, right? It adds layers to. I've talked about it before. I love friendship-based wrestling. I love when you have those partnerships, because it mirrors real life. We're not all riding through this journey solo, brother. You know what I mean? So
that's right.
I love seeing those partnerships, and I love the drama that comes out of it. And like you talked about it, in this matchup, the DMD, as always, is kind of using her antics, and getting the better of her opponents through those things. I feel like Ruby would really benefit from being in a group. I agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. And she has that spunky personality where you feel like she could be a leader, right?
Definitely. And it looks like a leader, carries herself like a leader, has that experience as one. So we're seeing more of that gang warfare of the heel side. So I feel like it's almost better if you could create a current roster stable, 3-person, Ruby +2. Who would you want in the new and improved Soho squad?
Oh man, that's so tough. Honestly, I think, like, I think personally, if anybody needs a group right now, I think it is Thunder Rosa. I mean,
Right.
when you look at, but if you're talking about Ruby,
Well, when you're at the
obviously-
top, everyone wants to bring you down a notch, you know.
Yes, agreed. I don't know who. I mean, honestly, when I look at the overall vibes of the characters on the show, I think that Penelope Ford and the Bunny kind of fit with Ruby, even though they're heels.
You're
they,
right. That's a
they
good
kind of
point.
have that they kind of have that edge to them. But who stands out to you, brother? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. I think that there's not a lot of people who match her energy right now, and that edge. But to me, Penelope kind of has that similar like rock star vibe to her. I don't know.
Right.
The one thing is for sure, the women's division is starting to get a lot of layers to it, and that's one of the things that you called for at the beginning of 2021.
Yeah.
And now we had it. That's one of the things that stands out to me the most watching the AEW product right now in 2022, the beginning of 2022, how far the women's division has come. This was a great tag match.
I got one I think you might like. I would
Let's hear
put
it.
Sky Blue with her.
Oh, that's good. I know you're
The
very
backwards hat, Converse, kind of like. So that would be.
I like
one.
that idea. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good call. Sky Blue kind of has that plucky underdog vibe to her, and you throw, like you said, you throw a backwards cap on her and some Converse, she could totally fit. I like that idea.
Yeah.
The one thing I came away from this tag match is, man, honestly, all four of these women are world championship contenders, right? Britt is obviously the champ, but I could see Jamie Hayter as a champion.
Right.
I could see Ruby as
True.
a champion, and obviously Riho was our first champion. So it's just showing more and more that these women are as the tide rises, all ships rise,
That's
right? And you're starting to see that happen over and over again in the women's division. Think about it. Penelope Ford and the Bunny, how elevated they're getting right now. Ty Conti and Anna Jay, that tandem. We're seeing over and over and over again great examples of the women's division really coming up and raising the stakes and really, I mean, setting the bar. A lot of these shows, the women's division they're stealing segments, brother. Serena Deeb and Sheeta. Right. I mean, there's so many examples of these women now absolutely crushing it. The guys better be on notice, man. That's all I'm going to say, man. The AEW's women division for how many stones the internet wrestling community threw at the AEW's women's division in its infancy. It is so cool to be a part of the AEW team here, how much we love that company and that product. To see how far it's come and to see how many women are really breaking through and connecting with the fans, man. It's pretty awesome.
You're right, man. That was one of my biggest, because I had high expectations. And so that was one of my biggest, when we were doing elites and deletes, it was, I wanted so much more and I'm getting more. And then it's exceeding all my, any expectations. And, I don't have the bar set high, but they are just on top of it, man. But we'll switch into the Hook versus Solo, and we're seeing a consistent trend of Hook being featured on Rampage. Is this going to be the night of Hook, Friday nights of the Hook? And so I really like this, and even the announcers were saying, the great commentators team were saying how Solo is such an in-ring general, and so his experience, it could be one of his best tests yet. But Hook, another dominant performance as well. I mean, the guy just carries himself so well. The swagger, the bedhead, the music, chomping the gum with the chain. And Solo, I think, was a good pairing for him. He's had so many different matches in his 3 matches. They're all 3 different, and who's he going to face next? But it's just naturally going to happen where Team Taz is going to be forced to turn babyface, and I think that works. You don't change much at all. No, you're just going to get the natural crowd transition because you have Ricky Starks, which we'll talk about later, who's just full of charisma. He doesn't have to change anything other than his insults to the crowd. Powerhouse Hobbs, keep that snarl, badass, tough, big attitude. Doesn't matter. Team Taz, leading the stick, doesn't matter. Just backing everything up that he talks. And then Hook, who's clearly, like I said, over with the crowd so much and just continue his dominance. But the thought that of having a Factory and Team Taz feud is very, very, very interesting and something we would really love to see. The pairings between both teams and mix up any people. And we saw a little taste of that with QT Marshall getting in the face of Hook's after the match. And it makes total sense. The commentator team and Taz was talking about the training and all that, and then QT and Solo's promo ahead of this. Man, please give us more of that. Factory versus Team Taz, transition Taz to Team Babyface. That's great. That'll work. And continue to give a fully healthy formed Factory a push.
Yeah. I mean, for me, man, typically like as the team heel and I want to fight you and say you can't have Team Taz, but I can't argue on this one, man. It makes a lot of sense.
They could use a fresh change.
Yeah, they could.
And they're getting it with Hook.
Exactly. I mean, the superstardom that Hook has in front of him, it feels like he's already broken through with the AEW fan base.
Fast.
This kid is so popular on social. The crowd loves this kid, and he carries himself like with that swagger, like you talked about, chomping on the gun, just on the gum, just kind of like that mean mugging. He's got the swagger to him, where like of a guy who's well established.
You're right.
But it kind of could work as a baby face. Hobbs, we've talked about. The fans are ready for a Powerhouse Hobbs push. Starks has the charisma for days, brother. So I love your idea. I love this was something that came to me, honestly, watching this. I was like, man, there's so much potential for a Team Taz and the Factory feud when you start to look at the way these two groups are structured. QT and Taz on the mic just spitting fire at each other.
Yes, that would be great.
I think Anthony Ogogo and Ricky Starks in the ring together, just absolute star power and potential through the roof on both guys. Hobbs versus Nick Camarado. I mean, I love just the way these two teams mirror each other.
Really,
and I think Solo did a nice job against Hook in this match. I think obviously Aaron came in with a losing record, and everybody under the sun knew that Hook's momentum is not getting stopped anytime soon.
Not many people in AEW have the momentum he has right now.
Agreed.
Period. Even the ones that hold gold.
You're absolutely right. I mean, his star is just his stock is going through the roof, brother. But Solo had a nice showing, and I thought that the match worked really well. There was actually a point in this one where like the commentator team said, "Man, this is the most trouble we've seen Hook in." Right. Solo had his shots in, and QT being ringside certainly helped. I love QT grabbing Hook's feet, foot from underneath the ropes. Old school heel vibes from my guy QT.
Yeah.
I think that there's and now with the post-match thing going down with QT, going after Hook and getting suplexed, if we know QT like we think we do, he's not going to just take that line down. So I think that there is a long-term play here potentially with the Factory and Team Taz, and I think that would entertain a lot of folks, man. I'm all for it. It would be so great to have Ogogo emerge back on the scene because I know he's healthy and he's had his opportunities in AEW since coming back, but we haven't really seen him break through again on a big stage. And I think that going against Team Taz with the momentum that they have right now, there's a lot of buzz around Team Taz, and it's cool to see.
I think for a win-win for both teams, it would be pretty cool to have, let's say, obviously, like Hook beating Solo could beat QT Marshall, even go against the Freak Beast, and then trading matches back and forth with Powerhouse Hobbs. But ultimately, I think it would be pretty cool story to push someone like Ogogo where he takes out Ricky and takes the belt from Team Taz.
Wow.
So that way, that's the ultimate redemption. So you have Team Taz dominating the Factory for a while, keeping Hook stock and Powerhouse Hobbs stock high, and then ultimately you keep Ogogo's stock high by taking that belt. Or you could throw that belt on QT Marshall as well, putting it online. Then he'll have the gold around his shoulder talking so much smack. I mean, I think that would be a win-win for both teams. And I think Team Taz needs some kind of direction like that because once they finish this Dante Martin storyline, I think it's kind of run its course a little bit unless they have some kind of swerves ahead of us. But I think it makes much more sense to do a stable feud with them because they've kind of been off and on a little too much, and they're too talented to be off and on. They need to be featured.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, tonight we saw Dante come out to the rescue for Matt Sydal, and we got to see like Lee out there, and so that looks like there might be the new trio that's emerging to face Team Taz, and maybe that's the case. But I'm with you, man. I'm all for a factory versus, and I love the stable wars. We just got done with our end of the year awards, and you guys, both you and Bond said, the Pinnacle versus Inner Circle was your feud of the year. And I understand why. I love those faction wars, man. I love when we get those like groups just going at each other. There's so much, like we talked about, so many more layers that you can get in a feud. And I think that before Ogogo got hurt, and you going back and you hear end of the year, people reflecting on stuff. Cody talked about one of his biggest regrets was the Ogogo feud.
Right.
I think that like Cody made it clear, like, man, Ogogo's star was on the rise, and it felt tone deaf by Cody to do to Ogogo what he did. And I had to know somewhere Bonds was smiling, because at the time we all agreed, like, man, it felt like Ogogo was one of these guys who, if AEW pushed the chips in, it could have been a big deal. But Cody brought out the golden shovel. I would love Ogogo to rise from the ashes after his injury and get back on track, because I do think that guy has a lot of star power. I think he has a lot of potential, and he's one of
the limit with him, man.
He's the type of guy too who's international, who could be an international draw. There's been rumors of AEW wanting to travel more. Obviously, they're going to start going to the West Coast of the States. I just think Ogogo is one of those guys who can transcend, and we saw he was one of the guys who really started the Cody turn. Yeah. If you remember, I mean, like, I know we've gotten off track here, but Ogogo's reaction, and Cody being this uber patriotic USA guy, the crowd was turning on Cody then. It was the momentum was starting, the winds of change was coming. I would love to see Ogogo get an opportunity again.
Completely agree. And we've always been anticipating and kind of fantasy booking his return. At different points. You'd have thought maybe a return at All Out when we were there, to kind of give the knockout punch to Paul White, which would have been a cool jab after the fact. But man, we got to push that. Let's make a wave on social, the Factory February or something like that. Where we're
like it.
Factory.
I like
know we
it.
did Join Dark Order January last year, but Factory February, and it doesn't have to be big factions. Dark Order was obviously a big faction, but like, here at Dynamite Download, we're not just looking at we're looking at the big picture. And I know you guys know we love the Factory, and what they've been doing has been outstanding stuff, and they just need more time. And so moving on to, as Mark Henry said, it's time for the main event. So we're going to talk the main event of Rampage, then move right into Battle of the Belts, because that was the hot act that we saw tonight, a Saturday night AEW television. But Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz versus Daniel Garcia and 2.0. And like I said, I got my tape on, I got my gum, and we're going to give you guys a taste of this match, because it was a fantastic match,
baby.
And they were fantastic. We need to see more 2.0. Daniel Garcia's stock is on the rise, and these guys are just outstanding stuff that they do. That backstage promo, getting them more promo time is just money. Pure fire. These guys can talk. They're so smooth. Obviously, they got their own podcast, and they're giving us a taste nonstop for the BTE Championship as well. So these guys stars are rising. 2022. I know we picked out different people for our breakout stars of 2022, but 2.0 could quickly become the breakout stars of 2022 if they continue, getting the faces of big name people like Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz, and maybe even Jurassic Express. Maybe they'll get that title shot very soon. But this was a brutal match, a lot going on. I enjoy team matches, but sometimes I feel like street fights are a little too much. It's too much going on at once for me. That being said, there was still a lot of great moments. I loved when
I didn't think this one. I thought this one was almost a perfectly executed street fight. It had humor in it. I loved when Matt grabbed the fat head and hit.
That was so funny.
I love that. The pre-match promo leading into this match is already one of my favorite moments of the year. I love that. I love Matt's delivery.
What do you say?
So funny. Suck my ass. Pull the tights. The tights.
Put the tape on for you.
So good, man. I loved it. I love you chewing away.
That's right. A chew.
No, Team 2.0 and Garcia are certainly onto something, man. Garcia is a killer in the ring. I love his bulldog mentality. Just kind of a guy who has that confidence in himself, who doesn't really back down from anybody.
Right.
He kind of has a street fighter mentality in him, who's kind of that underdog chip on his shoulder. Big fan of Garcia and what he can do in the ring, man. Really talented kid.
At first, I wasn't wild about him, but now I think he's just really, really, really talented in the ring, and I like his look. And him and Sami are going to tear down the house, man.
Dude, that match is going to be freaking amazing. It's going to be so good.
Please let them open so they can have as much time commercial-free as possible because, wow, I really think their styles are going to blend so well.
Yes. I couldn't echo that more on my side, bro. You and I are 100% on the same page. Sami versus Daniel Garcia is going to just absolutely slaughter. It's going to burn the house down. Those two, their in-ring styles together are going to be just killer. But getting back onto this match, because this one wasn't as technical. It wasn't this beautiful showcase of athleticism like we anticipate to see between those two. This was just three guys on each side just beating the crap out of each other. It was a lot of fun. I know going back to this one, I remember texting back and forth with Bonds on it, and he was like, dude, is it weird? But I feel like Santana and Ortiz could both go on singles runs and be like just be killer. And like just watching the energy, like obviously Kingston has that that like New Yorker punch you in the face, kick you in the nuts type of mentality to
right,
him.
For sure.
But bros, that they all got that vibe to them. They all got that. I mean, watching this match made me think about what Santana it took me back to the blood and guts stuff because it made me remember, man, Santana is one of my favorite guys on this roster when we get a chance to see him regularly.
On Ortiz. Yeah, I love he's improved so much and he's so good on the mic too.
We don't get a chance to see Santana enough. But when he's out there, dude, I just feel like he has this energy to him. He just has this ability. Like he brings a fire, his passion. There's a lot to him that I think that he seems like a multi-layered person. I don't know. He just seems like a deep dude. But he burns with this passion and intensity and fire, and he brings it into his matches, into his promos.
You're right.
He was killer when he had that steel chair in this street fight, man. He was going off, bro. It was incredible. Big fan of what I saw out of this one. And again, I love that Team 2.0 is being presented as these antagonists, these guys who talk a lot of trash, but that they can back it up. It's so rare when you get these groups that run their mouths and always get under the skin of the good guys. They always end up being the ones that can't back it up. And these guys can. It's been a lot of fun watching how they've been presented.
You're absolutely right.
Tony Khan actually liked one of our tweets about that when we talked about how they're balancing these underground, homegrown stars type of vibe with these huge superstars, keeping and also balancing that connection of, dude, Santana Ortiz being those OG original AEW guys who feel like they could be lifers at this company.
As they
blending them in with new, fresh faces like Garcia and like Team 2.0. The AEW does such a great job of blending those veterans in with the younger guys, blending in those old school guys with the new faces. Mm-hmm. Even though this roster is absolutely loaded, it feels like we get to see, and you mentioned it, a lot of it's because of the multi-man or multi-woman matches that we see now. But we get to see so many characters in AEW. It's really exciting. If you're a fan, you feel like everybody gets this chance. Everybody gets a shot. It's exciting to see.
It really is, man. And you're right, man. I would love to talk to 2.0 one day because they're just so energetic. They're so fun. Throw on the tape, throw in a chew. And we got the mugs. I know they got the mugs too. So it would be awesome to have them on the show one day because they seem like just awesome, positive guys.
God,
and really just having the time of their life, honestly, just time of their life for sure. Yep. So now we're going to move into Battle of the Belts, the first ever Battle of the Belts from AEW. which was a Saturday night special in Charlotte, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
And it's an interesting concept. I think they really they have something here if they continue doing a special edition. I like how they always keep things fresh. We're going to see Beach Break 2.0 coming later this month in Cleveland.
Yeah, baby.
Where we almost went to Beach Break last year. But we got Battle of the Belts, 3 belts are on the line. No, essentially no title changes because the interim TNT title match wasn't officially a title change, but Cody's not medically cleared. But we'll start with that match, man. Dustin Rhodes is taking the spot for his brother, Cody Rhodes, who's not medically cleared, and Sammy Guevara is getting his rematch for the interim TNT title match. And so Cody is still essentially the champ, but Sammy Guevara is holding down the belt until he gets back, until they have a grudge match. Yeah, so before we talk about the match, what do you think of AEW's kind of idea? I know they are probably throwing a swerve last minute because of certain scenarios, but they kept the title on the line for Battle. Do you think this was only because it was Battle of the Belts, or do you think this is kind of like something they've had in their back pocket just in case?
I struggle with why take the belt off of Sammy only for him to get it back. For Cody to be out of the picture. It just is. It felt. This was one of the few things where it felt weird going into the match. I didn't really understand, and AEW tried to explain it with Cody being injured, but I feel like at that point, either he gets stripped of the belt or you don't have the title defended. I had a hard time wrapping my head around the logic of this going into it, being honest with you. But about halfway through the match, I stopped caring about that altogether. Right. And I fell in love with what these guys were doing.
You're right.
But yeah, I did struggle a little bit with how this was presented. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And for Sammy to win the belt, I don't know.
The match was fantastic.
I'm struggling a little bit with the whole why this match had to happen. But beyond that, the match itself was fantastic. I think Dustin's, man, some of the moves he started pulling off, that Canadian Destroyer through the table in particular to Sammy was brutal and perfectly executed. But I love Dustin bringing out the crossroads, back-to-back crossroads on Sammy.
It was fantastic.
And although there were times when you were wondering, is he slowing down the pace because he's struggling to go? It made a lot of sense when you think about, all right, this is a bigger guy. He's older than Sammy. He's a veteran in the game. Why is he going to play into Sammy's strength and go at this rapid pace and just blow himself up on cardio? He slowed down the match. He used his physicality. He used his size. He bullied Sammy at times in this match. I thought it actually worked really well as a counter to Sammy, because so often we love to see Sammy in these matchups where he gets a chance to go against guys his size, and he gets a lot of athleticism and crazy spots that go on. It was kind of cool seeing him against a guy who slowed it down and used his size and experience against him. It was an interesting role reversal, I think, from what we've usually
I think this was paced very well, and with enough high spots, enough offense, so many fantastic false finishes in this match. If I had to give a top performer of the last 48 hours, it would be Dustin Rhodes. I think because we haven't seen him in the ring, he just wowed me. All experience, all whatever age difference aside, I think the stuff I saw to him in terms of, he's so smart in the ring. When Sammy was outside by the steel steps, instead of smashing his head, he smashed his knee, and then he pile drives him on the outside. And then the Canadian Destroyer through the table was absolutely epic and perfectly done. Everything about it. I think he has Dustin Rhodes, the natural, he's the total package. It's the reason why he's been wrestling for 3 decades or more. It's just, he wowed me for sure. And the gripe I have about this match is the finish. And I will say it, I hate roll-up finishes. And then over the last 48 hours, we saw multiple roll-up finishes. I hate them.
Yeah, you are.
I cannot stand a roll finish unless it's for a medical emergency reason. If two guys are battling it out, or women battling it out, their hearts out and risking it all, and you're going to just have a cheesy roll-up finish, I can't stand it. That is the biggest heel. You're laughing because you're a heel and you like those roll-up finishes. You're one of those where it would have the cheat to win video games, GoldenEye, the golden gun.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, I would be all for it. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I'm glad to hear you stick. I love hearing you stick up for the. Hey man, like I said, I think like roll-up finishes. It's a part of the game, dude. You always got to be keeping your head on a swivel. You got to keep your head on a swivel. Hey man, they were going back and forth on the pin attempts. I thought it worked out really well. I thought it was kind of interesting, and this match was a story of gamesmanship. You know, it was like the veteran using his tricks up his sleeve against a guy who's younger, more getting into his prime.
Right.
A guy who has a motor for days. You know, Dustin, it was this gamesmanship. Sami, there is a point in the match where Sami literally got up at the top rope, threw his arms back. He was toying with Dustin at points too. I love this cat. It was a cat and mouse game on both sides of it. And it protects Dustin a little too, man. I mean, honestly, like this kind of finish, Dustin showed out. I actually was kind of pulling for Dustin at points during this match because I feel like Dustin versus Cody would have been a really cool, with gold on the line, would have been a nice callback.
I think it would have been great to see Dustin have that.
And it would have been cool for Dustin to have that moment. I don't really know what they're doing with Sami right now. It felt like Cody beating him was like maybe a punishment to what happened. I don't know. It feels very odd what they're like. I think they're being very cautious with Sami right now. He could be a guy who teeters between babyface and heel right now. I'm getting some vibes of like with Sami's character that he could be walk that fine line. Obviously, he's going to be pure babyface going against Daniel Garcia, though.
That's right, man. I had to wear. I know Cody wasn't there, but I had to wear my Nightmare Family shirt.
Representing.
And I love Dustin's in-ring gear, that American flag, red, white, and blue. But this one, man, was an incredible way to start the show. I really love this match, and it delivered and then some. And it's going to give us another great match, like we talked about earlier, Daniel Garcia versus Sami Guevara. But Ricky Starks, who we had as a breakout star of 2021 at Dynamite Download, one of our 3 picks last year, Matt Sydal. It's a bummer because he's becoming he's such a good worker, but he's coming, just kind of I hate to say he's kind of a jobber, but he's such a good worker.
No, here's how I view it's so funny because during this match, I was like, dude, Matt Sydal is becoming kind of like AEW's Dolph Ziggler. And that's a compliment, brother. That's not, I mean, Dolph is a guy who has made a career really on like,
you're right,
just putting on, being a show stealer in the ring. He doesn't always win as much as sometimes I think some of his bigger fans would have hoped that he could have at points, especially there were times in his career where it felt like he could have broken out and been a huge, huge, huge star. But Dolph has made a great career for himself on being a guy who you can count on to have a killer match and just make his opponent look like $1 million. And Matt Sydal, man, this guy's he's been in the business over a decade, and there's a reason why. This match with Starks was one of my favorite matches of the weekend. Like I said, I thought they absolutely crushed it. These guys absolutely were killing it back and forth. Sydal and his striking, how many times have you and I talked about he can get in your face and his kicks
kick your head off.
They're fantastic. And there were times as a guy who loves Ricky and his upside where I was like actually worried about his neck during this match because I was like, man, some of Sydal's offense snaps so hard. It's so crisp. And me as a Pac fanboy, I love those guys who have that offense who it feels like their kicks are crisp, their suplexes snap.
Yeah.
Sydal's offense, it feels like everything is executed with perfection. And there were moments where I was like, man, I was worried about Starks' neck at multiple points in this match because of the offense that he got against him.
Yeah, and it's great to see Starks back in the ring because the guy is, to me, like I said it earlier about others, but he's a total package. And he's one of those that needs to be featured more in such a deep roster. And even though he has a unrecognized belt on his shoulder, Team Taz and Starks, like they're, equipped with 3 different and solid stars, and that should be a focal point of AEW television and programming. Whether it be, they could even, if they want to start small and like you focus on make Dark a more meaningful, or an Elevation a more meaningful show instead of just continuing enhancement talent matches. If you need to do that because you have such a stacked showing, but I really hope that, we're seeing Powerhouse Hobbs this Wednesday. Does that lead to that 3-on-3 match that you were talking about before? Or does it lead to a factory transition feud? It could do both. It definitely could do both. But all in all, Ricky Starks, baby, in the ring is fantastic stuff.
I was hoping that you would have opened the segment with, because I know you love doing the Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
You've been doing the Adam Cole Revolution will be televised. Brian throws this out there in the chat, and I think that, without question, I think we all believe that Ricky Starks has what it takes.
Revolution is televised.
Right.
I think we all agree that Ricky could be an AEW world champion.
Agree.
He was one of our – he's a guy that – and it's funny. We thought like, oh, man – Ricky, we was one of our breakout star picks for last year, and it felt like, oh man, an injury robbed him of that. And then you look at his overall record, and you're like, all right, Ricky has had a hell of a run so far at AEW.
You're right.
This young man has so much upside. He's got he carries himself with that swagger. His spear is one of the best in the business right now. I'm a big fan of how he launches himself into that one. Ricky just oozes confidence, and he's got. I think he's checking all the boxes. The relationship with Hobbs at ringside works really, really well. Having that powerhouse, literally there to protect you. It almost mirrors that MJF Wardlow relationship, True. But without Ricky Starks being an absolute jerk, you know what I mean? It works though. It works really, really well, and gives Starks that extra oomph when he's in the matches. I hope that we get to see a lot more Starks in 2022.
Agree completely, and more Team Taz overall 2022. And we'll transition into the main event that we're going to continue to see more and more, because she is a pillar of the AEW period and a pillar of the AEW women's division. The DMD Britt Baker had her title on the line tonight against a former champion Riho, which, like, as we talk, let's do it together. The DMD title on the line against someone she has not beat yet, and then announce team did great hype in this matchup, giving us more and more backbone, backstory to this whole feud as well. And the power in numbers with the DMD squad worked in her favor for a while, but all in all, man, it was a dominant performance by both women. I think both showed excellent in-ring work, and this was one of those matches that it was to me, it was better than Britt's last few pay-per-view and title defenses match. This is one of her best title defense match, period. Against Riho, of the former champ. I think they wrestled really well, chemistry together. They traded a lot of good big spots and physical spots. And so to date, this could be her best title defense. Yeah. And tell me why. Because
Britt Britt's at her best when she can wrestle like a powerhouse.
Okay.
When she had that match against Thunder and that street fight, the unsanctioned match, you go back and watch Britt, the air raid crash, Britt being able to showcase Britt's actually got some size for being in the women's division. Britt is actually pretty strong and pretty big compared to a lot of these women in the division. And she carries herself with strength. When Britt's able to be in the driver's seat of a match, and Picture in picture came again as the freaking. I can understand why you're on Team Babyface and how much you hate Team Heel, because I was sitting on the couch. I was like, man, Picture in picture is the biggest heel in AEW, because Britt dominated through the commercial.
You're not
break.
wrong.
Just absolutely dominated through the commercial break, and then we got back to seeing Riho's fired up comeback. But it's just like, I love seeing Britt wrestle like a bully, and I get it. A lot of her matches, she always has to rely on outside interference. There's a lot of cheating with her championship defenses to this point,
Typical
and that is
heel fashion.
And again, that does get old sometimes, and that's what I like when we get to see Britt really command a match and showcase her strength. I love that as a heel. I love that she's always got tricks up her sleeve. But there were moments in this match where it felt like, all right, Britt's just really wearing down, and she almost was overcoming the odds herself with how Jamie Hayter felt like there were moments when she was sabotaging Britt. But Riho was a nice counter to Britt, because Riho's size allowed Britt to really, as the champ, bully the underdog opponent as the babyface, and that worked really, really well. When you have Britt, as we talked about it during this feud, but when Britt was going against Nyla, Britt almost became the babyface in that feud, because it's so hard for anyone to be a heel against Nyla Rose, because Nyla is so powerful. So Britt being able to lean into her size and bullying around Riho in this match, really, I love when Britt stomps in the corner. Some of those at Riho look nasty. It looks like she was really kicking the crap out of Riho in some of these. But Riho's fun to watch in that she's kind of bendy, and she's like it's like she's Gumby in there. She's bendy, she's always squirming around. She's hard to get locked down. I really like that vibe that we got from Riho, where it's just like you never know how to keep this plucky, spunky underdog down. It was really a fun matchup that she kept everybody on her toes for.
This is another accolade for the DMD. Main event, the first woman main event of the inaugural Rampage, main event at the Battle of the Belts the first time. Just keep adding those accolades to the list.
There's
of the
another
DMD.
person on the list that she's beaten. I mean,
who do you want to see her face next? I know we could potentially, I saw in the chat a little earlier, potentially a 3-on-3 battle with a Ruby, and maybe forming a squad or something like that, or a temporary. If they run back, I know that we saw the tag team on Rampage, but if they did a 3-on-3, but who do you see as we're here with the new year, DMD's next contender for the title?
Well, you're certainly seeing on the tea leaves. It's easy to start seeing that Jamie Hayter is going to be in the pipeline at some point, dude. I mean,
she hit her in the face on Rampage. We saw a little tension on Battle of the Belts.
Tonight, Riho hit Britt into Jamie. Jamie multiple times during this match, it felt like, Thunder Rosa has to be laughing somewhere, because it felt like her assistance to Britt was really undermining her when getting out the table and that backfiring against Britt, getting out the title belt and throwing it into the ring, backfiring against Britt at moments, getting Rebel thrown out. So they're certainly planting that seed that Jamie Hayter will eventually be in the pipeline. Obviously, I also would love to see Thunder Rosa and Britt at some point. It feels like Thunder now is kind of off to going against with Jade and Mercedes Martinez. She's kind of got her own thing going. So maybe they're delaying that even further. Who else jumps out to you, though? I mean, there's not a lot of names that Britt hasn't beaten. Britt's certainly her championship run at this point. She's knocking down people left and right.
Yeah, I was just seeing the chat, Statlander. I mean, there's not many top tier baby faces that I could see stepping up for the belt right now. I mean, the rankings reset this year, all in all, they reset after the first of the year. And so you're looking at the ranking system as well, with fresh rankings and who stands out, I'm trying to pull up the rankings for the
mean,
women's division. You have Rio
that's
at
the thing.
top, Statlander, Thunder, Ty, and Ruby. And so obviously she beat Ruby, she beat Ty. She hasn't beat Thunder. She hasn't faced Statlander. So Statlander, obviously based on the rankings, kind of seem like next in line, but I can't see that happening right now because Statlander is kind of involved with what's going on with Layla Hirsch, which I'm all for that. I think that's a fantastic to see Layla more and kind of turning a heel as well. So who do you want to see her go against?
What about the winner of Deeb versus Sheeta?
Yeah,
I mean, because let's be honest,
that'd
we've
be
talked
top tier.
How many times have we talked about Deeb and Sheeta being one of the best feuds in all of AEW right now? I mean,
right.
we've said it countless times. It's clearly that feud is on fire right
You're
now.
Right.
Those two women are pushing each other to another level, and I think we've been blown away by the quality of that in-ring work, and I love the fire that it's bringing out of Sheeta. I love that kind of that Bret Hart. You're going to put some respect on my name type of attitude that Deeb has right now. You know, with JR, that promo, like basically what woman on this roster is on my level? And JR even said it. I don't know if any of them are on your level, Deeb, in the ring. So that would be a nice way to add even more stakes to that incredible feud between those two women. The winner of that emerges. And dude, has Britt beaten Sheeta since winning the title? When has Sheeta gotten her rematch?
She hasn't. You're right.
You know, usually the champ gets a rematch. Sheeta would get. Seems like it would make a lot of sense. And Deeb against Britt would be. Let's be honest. Deeb against anybody, it brings out maybe one of the better matches of that person's portfolio. So I would love that feud to lead to something of consequence.
Yeah.
And I would be all for seeing Deeb or Sheeta go against Britt for the title. I think either one of them could have a very compelling feud with the doctor.
I would think like Deeb is so good in the ring and such in-ring general. My money would be on Deeb.
Her versus Britt would be awesome. And like that would be phenomenal. But Sheeta, dude, you got to think Sheeta's got something. There's got to be something a little personal. I would hope that Sheeta deep down wants to get past Deeb so that she can, like, when is she going to get her rematch? You would hope that there would, if you're Sheeta, if you're a fan of Sheeta, you want to see Sheeta tired of being passed over. And maybe it starts with Britt saying, who else can touch me? I don't know. I don't necessarily. I think Statlander is a contender, but I don't think that Statlander has been presented as a believer. Like even though she's in the upper echelon of the rankings and is obviously she's been a powerhouse in this division. I just don't think she's been presented as a legit challenger to Britt yet. I personally, I think that Deeb and Sheeta those two women, we saw it in the title tournament. These two, to make that winner then become the number one contender, it makes too much sense not to go that direction. And the end result, you get a hell of a match.
You're absolutely right, and it's a win-win for us all. So speaking of that match, looking ahead at Dynamite this week, we have CM Punk versus Wardlow, Deeb versus Sheeta, Powerhouse Hobbs versus Dante Martin, Sammy Guevara versus Daniel Garcia. So far, of those four matches so far, in the chat, and Bonds brought up a really interesting point of that whole CM Punk Wardlow, how MJF, to protect everyone involved, MJF kind of costing a DQ to CM Punk, like hitting Wardlow with a chair or something. And so CM Punk gets his first loss kind of by like technicality. I think that's a safe bet. I can't see CM Punk beating Wardlow clean. And I don't think he should. I don't think he should, because that just sucks air out of Wardlow's sail that is just sailing so high right now. It just would not be the right thing to do. The only way to protect that is if MJF costs either one of them a win. But of those four matches, which one are you looking forward to the most?
Well, just touching on your point, I think that's a great point by Bonds. I agree. I think that makes a lot of sense. And it would also make a lot of sense with the story of between MJF and Wardlow. If imagine MJF hitting Wardlow with a chair.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Like,
and
I
then
did
being,
it to disqualify him. I did.
don't worry about it, big man. Like, it would be like, look, you beat CM Punk, you know, like
Right.
he could MJF could spin it, and it would be an amazing character work too.
For sure.
But dude, I'm an awful poker player for a reason. I wear my heart on my sleeve. It's very obvious. Like, I have a hard time containing my excitement. I told you at the beginning of the show, Daniel Garcia versus Sami Guevara. I'm all in with Daniel Garcia and Team 2.0. I think those two guys are going to have an incredible match. That's definitely a contender. But man, this card is absolutely stacked. Sheed versus Sheeta
I know. I
versus
hope
D.
you are on the show
I mean,
Wednesday so we could chat all about it.
How do you get better than this card? I mean, I'm geeking out about next week's Dynamite. I really, it has so many of my favorite people on the show. The only way you can make it better is if you threw Thunder versus Britt on there. I mean, that would be the only way to make it any better.
There's got to be a tag match. I feel like you have to have the new tag team champs make a statement or at least something, especially after what we saw at the end of Dynamite, where all the tag team
good point.
All the heel tag teams come out. So I think you do throw a title defense in for Jurassic Express.
Or
it
a
would
segment.
Be cool.
There needs
at
to be
least
some
a
segment.
At least something like that. But I hope for a tag match because all singles, great, whatever. But, AEW is such a great tag division. I want to see more of that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioning the tag division. Didn't my guy Max Caster say they're going to debut?
The music video.
I miss those so much, and
You talked about it, and we tagged them, and now they're doing it.
I love it. I love it. I said it before they announced it. I miss those so much, and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. I love the Acclaim.
Our favorite fan was watching the show, and then he told his friend Max Caster, our favorite fan MJF, told Max Caster that the Dukes of Dynamite Download was talking about the music videos, how they missed them.
These guys got a good idea.
Yeah. Then he sent it over because I know he's watching right now on Saturday Slam.
I love it. Yeah, you know that MJF is always dialed in, tuned in to Dynamite Download. But yeah, I mean, I think that Platinum Max and the Acclaim, that's going to be a lot of fun. I do think that they're going to have to address the elephant in the room. Jungle Boy did a great job on social media doing that, but that is a huge change in the overall. And I know you're a huge Lucha Bros fan. You're devastated that they lost the belts. But they need to address the tag division in some way, shape, or form on Dynamite. Absolutely agree with you on that. But regardless, it's hard to pick a match I'm most excited about. I get to see the War Dog going against the best in the world. D versus Sheeta. That feud has been incredible, and that in-ring work. You know that those two are going to deliver a killer in-ring match. I mean, Daniel Garcia versus Sami. I mean, dude, you can't go wrong with any of these matches.
So many different styles that we're going to see.
Yes, sir.
As well. So, man, okay. I hope you join us on Wednesday night for Dynamite Download. So. This was an action-packed, jam-packed week for Dynamite. 3 televised events as well. And then we'll be back. We will be back live Wednesday night for Dynamite Download episode 68. And so we can't wait for that. And I hope you guys are joining us for that after Dynamite Live. Crayfish, if all goes well, he'll be joining in. But if not, it'll be Booking by Bonds and SPD holding down the fort. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for joining us, as always. It's always so fun to have you in the chat. And, it's all about the boom.